Hello, hello. I'm just
Hi.
finishing up my lunch, everybody.
That's fine. Hello, hello. Hello.
Everyone,
Hi, I'll be right back. I just have to open up another text. I'll be with you in one moment. I can't seem to find certain things. There we go. Be with you in one moment. Okay. Now I can share my screen.
Shalom, you all.
Hello, Yehudi.
hi,
So it's always nice to sit on Thursday and watch my old-fashioned Shabbos Mishpacha getting together for the Parsha class.
Yep. Excuse me. Just it's bothering me.
You can make it a little bit bigger.
All right. I
Possible.
will.
If you can't, you can't, but if you can, do.
Yeah, no, I will make it bigger. Let's see that. Let me. Okay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Please do.
And first of all, just to take a look at our the beginning of our parasha. Okay. So let me make sure that everybody is here. Yes. Rabbi Zucker, hello, and Yehudi and Shell and Maddie and Ricky. Yeah, Carol is not able to make it. What happened to Charlotte? I let her in.
she's on. She just doesn't have her video in her.
Oh, okay. All right. So, last week, of course, we began the whole set of instructions regarding the Mishkan, and it was basically with the physical structures of the Mishkan. And now we're going to move into what is worn by those who are serving in the Mishkan. There's still things to talk about in the Mishkan. The parasha actually begins with the description of Aaron lighting the menorah each day, and we'll later on talk about the altar of incense, Mizbach HaKtoret. But we're going to focus, at least in a few aspects, of Aharon's priestly garments, which, of course, has been captured by all kinds of artists throughout the ages. And you know, the breastplate is reflected on my talus clip, the different rows of stones, and of course also on his shoulders. But let's just read from the text. I hope this is large enough. Maybe I can, we're in chapter 27. Yeah, the end of 27. Can everyone see this?
It's a little small, but
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's much smaller than it was before.
well, no, this is a different text.
Oh, okay.
So let me see. Trying to see how I can make this larger on my screen. No, that's not it. Sorry, I just have to move you all around a bit. Huh. All right.
we'll squint. It's okay.
All right. Actually, yeah. Well, let me open up. Of course, after I closed it, and now let me just yeah. Everyone, you can make your screen larger. I'm trying to think of how I could do it, but it may not affect your screen. So
Oh,
for
yeah.
now,
Okay,
or if you have a Chumash in front of you,
That helps.
yeah, you can just look at the beginning of Tetzaveh. Actually, we're going to look in chapter 28. That's where we're going to begin, just to get a sense of what what garments the Kohen Gadol is wearing. So, Mi rotzeh likro. Who wants to read?
I'll read, Rabbi.
Okay, thank you,
You can have it.
Rick.
No, what? Go finish your lunch, Maddie.
I am still eating.
Now,
All right. Yeah.
now you have come near to you, Aharon your brother and his sons with him, from amidst the children of Israel, to be priests for me, Aharon, Nadab, and Abihu, Eleazar and Itamar, the sons of Aharon.
Okay, so bring them close. And
You are to make garments of holiness for Aharon your brother, for glory and for splendor.
And then it goes on to talk about, speak of the people who are talented enough to make these things. And these are the garments they're going to make. Go ahead with verse 4.
And these are the garments that they are to make: breastplate and ephod and tunic, braided coat, wound turban and sash. So they are to make garments of holiness for Aaron your brother and for his sons to be priests for me.
Okay, so certainly this is really, as we'll see, for the Kohen Gadol. All of these particular vestments, they're worn only by the Kohen Gadol. There's a separate set of vestments for the Kohen Hedyot, your run-of-the-mill Kohen, if you will. And then, of course, these are going to be particularly nice. They're going to be made out of the same materials to some extent as the Mishkan itself. Go ahead.
And
Hold
they,
it. I have a question.
Yes.
Since Moshe's brother Aaron is a Kohen, so Moshe is also, correct? Or no?
Yes and no.
Yes.
He's from the tribe of Levi, so technically he is. And there are times when he serves, certainly as he's installing Aharon and his sons, he's functioning as a Kohen. But it's
There's
really
a
the
very
Kahuna
interesting
is left
article.
for the Kahuna is left for Aharon. Rabbi Zucker, you were saying?
There's a very interesting article that just came out today by Rabbi Eric Grossman on the Torah.com on how Moses lost the high priesthood. But it indicates that he was basically the high priest for the inauguration of his brother and sons to the kahuna.
Okay.
But in that he covers it, and Ibn Ezra goes into a lot of details as to why.
Yehudi?
I think the point has to be really clearly made here that this parsha is beginning by the Babylonian Parsha Committee because up to this point, up to the last two verses of chapter 27, there is no way you could figure out from all Sefer Shemot up to that point that Aaron, who's up to now been functioning as a diplomat and as an assistant leader, is now all of a sudden out of absolutely nowhere going to be selected along with his biological descendants, but not brothers and not anybody else other than descendants, to become high priest. This, we all know this, so we think this was all part of the plan from day one. But as a practical matter, if you're reading Shemot for the first time, this should come as a complete surprise. And that's exactly why a whole new parsha starts with it, because it's introducing something that's totally unexpected, and furthermore, it's going to dwell on it for the remaining of the parsha. There are two parshiot in the Torah that are totally devoted to who is eligible to be a Kohen. This one and Parshat Korach, okay? And obviously, if two whole parshiot are devoted to this was a matter, a hot subject, okay? And and of course, they're going to have special garb. I mean, have we heard about special garb up to now? Moshe has been walking around in Pharaoh's palace. Aaron's been walking around in Pharaoh's palace. All of a sudden, clothing is going to become the enterprise of the year. I mean, you really have to understand what a watershed this parsha represents.
Yeah, well, that and in the instructions for the Mishkan, it's all. I mean, to some extent,
Mishkan, one thing. This is something else. There's no reason I would have anticipated from the description of the Mishkan. But now after that,
the description of the Mishkan, no.
Moshe's own brother to be the person who, after we met him before, he wasn't exactly a religious figure up to now. He's been more of a political, diplomatic figure. In other words, this is a complete surprise. The fact that we tend to run Teruma and Sabbath together because that's the system should not blind us to the fact that that's not actually the way the text is presenting it.
Yeah. Okay.
Look what I started.
Yeah. Well, let me just quickly give a different answer. Not, I think what was said before is 100% correct. I just want to share with you because it's right in front of me. A comment of Rabbi Yosef ben Wolf-Krantz, known as the Maggid of Dubno. No, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, Krantz was the Maggid, Dubner Maggid.
Yeah. So the Dubner Maggid says, God appointed Aaron and not Moses to the office of high priest because the work of bringing the people, including sinners, closer to God required a leader who would be closer to the people than Moses was. As a result of the high moral level he'd attained, Moses was too far removed from the people, and just as it is useless to engage a great Talmudic scholar to teach a small child who has yet to learn the Hebrew alphabet, so Moshe would not have made a good high priest for the children of Israel. So you have that a lot in Chassidut. I'm not saying that's the reason, but just wanted to.
It's a nice midrash, but I think, again, the article that I cited makes the point that if we're asking that question, that Moshe married somebody who was not Israelite, she was Midianite, and their kids were the product of that.
Right.
Whereas Aaron marries Elisheva, who's
the aristocracy.
Yeah.
And their children clearly are Israelites. There's no question. And when you think about the laws later on that are enumerated about who a Kohen is allowed to marry, it's very clear. So this aligns with that, whereas Moses disqualifies himself. And in that article, it indicates that we know that Moses' grandson, Jonathan, becomes priest in the temple in Dan, during the book of Judges.
Right.
So
Moshe
it was a line, but it was not
Rabbeinu
the accepted one.
Yeah.
But still, that doesn't mean he had to appoint Aaron. I think we're getting out of focus. It's okay to say why Moses wasn't appointed. After all, that would have been a little bit of concentration of power, which would have been politically absolutely unacceptable, as it is in Parshat Korach. We see that even the two brothers together are politically unacceptable to a lot of people. Okay, but nobody tells you from what you're saying that Aaron Dafka has to be the choice. There were plenty of people who could have been the choice. Why him?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but that's whether you're talking about, scholarly examination, looking at various texts, or whether you're reading Midrash, is we don't have a reason given in the Torah for why Aharon is chosen, other than he's Moshe's brother. So it's a very interesting question. So coming back to the garments, because that's what we're going to talk about here, and again, there's a reflection of the Mishkan in the actual garments of the people who, or at least of the Kohen Gadol, who officiates in the Mishkan. Go ahead, Maddie, with Ricky, you were reading verse 5.
And they are to take gold, blue, violet, purple, warm scarlet, and byssus.
Yeah, whatever that is. Sorry, I don't really know. I mean, these are all materials. Go on. They talk about the ephod.
They are to make the ephod of gold, of blue violet, and of purple, of warm scarlet, and of twisted byssus, of designers' making.
Going on.
2 shoulder pieces joined. It is to have at its 2 ends, and it is to be joined. The design band of its ephod, which is on it, according to its making, is to be from itself of gold, of blue violet, of purple, of warm scarlet, and of twisted byssus.
Yeah, so we have again the same materials and a lot of the same colors. The beauty of the gold, the royal implications of blue violet, and these other colors. Keep going.
You are to take 2 onyx stones and are to engrave on them the names of the children of Israel. 6 of their names on the 1 stone, and the names of the 6 remaining ones on the 2nd stone, corresponding to their beginnings.
Yeah. So not only are these decorated garments, but there are also inscriptions on these garments that, I mean, they're precious stones that are reflecting the people of Israel. Go on.
6 of their of stonecutters' making, with seal engravings. You would engrave up the 2 stones with the names of the children of Israel, surrounded by braids of gold. Are you to make them?
Yeah, so again, we get a sense of the beauty of all of this, and talking about he's going to put the stones in the shoulder pieces, and Aharon is to bear their names. V'nasa Aharon et shmotam lifnei Adonai. He's to bear their names before God on his 2 shoulders. Al shtei ktefav lezikaron, for remembrance. We're going to come to that in a moment, but it's kind of interesting. What does he wear on his sleeve? Yeah, well, we'll come back to that notion. Yehudi?
I think this is also a beautiful example of setting up an envelope structure for the whole Sefer Shemot. After all, why do we have to start Sefer Shemot with the statement, Ve'eleh Shemot B'nai Israel, when we already had that entire passage back in Breshit in Parshat Vayigash? Okay, it's resumptive repetition, but it's resumptive repetition to set something into stone, and that wasn't my pun. Okay, in other words, now we are going very back to the first 2 words of the Sefer. Shisha mishmotam ha'even ha'achad. And 6 on one shoulder, 6 on the other, all 12 on a breastplate. Well, now we understand why we're calling the Sefer Shemot. Of course, I realize once upon a time the book was called Sefer HaYetziah. That's how we get the name Exodus, but that does not change the fact that the book starts with those two words, V'eleh Shemot. And this is being emphasized here to the point that, that is what two things are going on here. One is the 10 Commandments are inside the Kodesh Kodashim. And the second thing is that when somebody goes in to do the holy service, who do they represent? Yeah. They don't represent the people as a whole. I mean, they do, but they represent the people as a whole, subdivided into 12 in a way that cannot possibly be ignored. Okay. And by the way, this is re-emphasized at the end of the Sefer in Parshat Pekudei in chapter 39. So there is absolutely no doubt about what the significance of all this is intended to be.
Yeah, and not only on the shoulders, but we'll see as well on the breastplate.
On the breastplate.
So, and we'll come back to that. That's great, and it's true. I mean, it really gives a structure to the book of Exodus, and the book of Exodus. Let's not forget that Shemot is also the beginning of the national story. Bereshit was definitely our familial beginnings, if you will, our ancestors, but it's really that we become B'nai Yisrael in the first chapter of Shemot, and we become the people of Israel. And so again, they're going into the chains and the braids and the things that everything is going to be hanging from gold. And again, we get to the breastplate of judgment, Choshen HaMishpat, or Choshen Mishpat, with the same kind of colors and how it's to be made, and you were to set it full with the setting of stone.
That translation? Breastplate are you happy with the translation breastplate of judgment?
Not necessarily. But I'm not, we're not taking a look at that particular garment this week. You can spend an entire class on any one garment, because at a certain point we don't really know what they are. So I mean, I think there are some kind of accepted translations. As you know, I use Everett Fox's here. Yeah, I mean, and even if you use a given translation, what does it mean? Breastplate of what do they call it here? Piece of judgment. Right. So anyway, we've got the setting of the stones, the 4 rows of stones, and of course, and the stones are to be with the names of Bnei Israel, 12 with their names, with signet engravings, etc., etc. Then attaching the breastplate and all of that stuff, the rings. So you get a lot of detail, even though we don't know what it actually looks like. But clearly there are things that are hanging. There are things that the Kohen wears. And, on a hot day in the desert or in Israel, that's an awful lot to be wearing. And again, here in verse 29, V'nasa Aharon et shmot b'nei Yisrael b'choshen hamishpat. So Aaron is to bear the names of the children of Israel on the choshen mishpat. That's, he's translating it breastpiece of judgment. Not everybody does.
APS translates it breastplate of decision, which I think is much better, because when we're all said and done, we're talking Urim and Tumim.
Right, or inside. And it goes on to say, "V'natata el choshen hamishpat et ha'urim ve'et ha'tumim." But it's also kind of very, very powerful. He's wearing these things on his sleeves. He's wearing these on his heart. So the garments are, as we'll talk about, very, very beautiful. Then there's a whole tunic for the ephod. The first bell-bottom pants, with the Pa'amon Zahav Rimon, Al Shulei HaMe'il Saviv, bell of golden pomegranates. And again, that's to make it safer for Aaron, because he's coming into the Mikdash, into the holy place. And you don't just come in unannounced. Also, they're going to make a tzitz zahav tahor, a plate of pure gold, and to engrave on it, ufitachta ala pituchei chotam, signet engravings, kodesh ladonai, holiness or holy to Adonai. And there's an argument in rabbinic tradition whether it's on one line or two separate lines. And
Because it is very small and it goes on the forehead. Let's make sure we get that straight. This isn't a big piece. This is a small.
Right. So, in fact, that's also something the commentators bring out, that it's, you could, some say you could even see Aharon's hair between the turban and the seats, and that has to be below the turban. There is a ptil techelet, a reminder that what we wear as everyday Israelites, the tzitzit, demonstrates our priestly character. Ptil techelet, and so and that's going to be again on his forehead. They translated on Aaron's brow. I think he's using that word to indicate that it is on the forehead and not in the top of the head.
You hear that? So Yoma discusses all this. Where would he put the tefillin shel rosh?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, right, exactly.
The tefillin shel rosh, which
I realize that's not historic. Okay,
right, but
it doesn't change the point that if Masechet Yoma makes a thing out of it, there's nothing wrong with us discussing it as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So overall, we're going to come back to Vasita Bigdei Kodesh Laron Achicha Lechavot Ula Tifaret. You are to make garments of holiness for Aaron your brother, for glory and for splendor. Now let's take a look just at a couple of commentaries here, because they're going to argue, what does it mean for glory and for splendor? So first of all, we're just going to take a look at Ibn Ezra. Ricky, you can go on because I kept cutting you off.
You are to make garments of holiness. They are called garments of holiness because he is to serve in them in the holy place, or along the lines that they sanctify not the people with their garments. The garments of Aharon are all those that are mentioned.
Okay, so first of all, why are they Bigdei Kodesh? Why are they garments of holiness?
Because he's going to be in the holy place.
Right. It's where they're worn. And they take on the Kedusha of the place. But going on.
That's where they're not worn.
Yeah.
Does he wear them when he brings sacrifices on the outer altar? Does he wear them when he goes home?
No, they're only worn.
A uniform. Where does it hang? In the closet? Where's the closet?
The Bible tells its stories on a need-to-know basis only. That's,
That's what that the rabbis didn't spend a great deal.
Oh no, of course there's plenty of discussion on all of this, but for now that we're just.
And we too.
Well, what are big?
How did this function in real life? Did they ever go into the laundry?
Should I go on?
Into the
Yes.
laundry.
Well, with I don't know. I also don't know if he
after
had
having the blood sprinkled on it, but
don't forget
Did
the
they
oil.
use this when they were
Oil, you had blood.
Remember, this is only for the high priest, not for the ordinary priest.
But the blood, the oil, he did not wear them in the Kodesh HaKodeshim, interestingly.
But he wore them in the Kodesh when he lights the menorah.
Right, exactly.
It seems to be the main place he wears it is inside where the Shulchan, the menorah, and the Mizbach HaKataret are. Indeed, that's how this whole parsha ends, with the Mizbach HaKataret.
Yeah. So, it's the space with the Aron is very, very special and very, very unique. The holy place is the section just in front of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. Okay, go on.
For glory and for splendor. They shall glorify themselves with these garments, for no other Israelite shall wear similar garments.
Okay, they have to be unique. And that's true for a great many things that will be associated with the Mikdash. So for example, for the most part, we cannot wear shatnez, mixture in wool and linen, but there was such a mixture in the hangings of the Mishkan and in the garments of the Kohen Gadol. So, it's a holy mixture, but it belongs in a particular context. And even you can say that all these special garments have to be in that particular context. They're not worn in these other contexts. And who is
When the
glorified
hangings are
through
not
the...
being worn. Okay, it's very important. There's nothing wrong with making curtains out of shatnez.
Right. They're not worn, but no one can take on, no one can pretend to be a Kohen. Except for the guy that the rabbi finally made him a Kohen because he, gave astronomical amounts of money to shul because he wanted to be a Kohen. And he explained why it was so important to him, because his father was a Kohen, his grandfather was a Kohen. Now, who is glorified, or the glory and the splendor goes to whom, according to Ibn Ezra?
Hashem.
Really?
To honor the Almighty.
What does he say? What did you just read? For glory and for splendor.
To honor the Almighty because he is blessed. So
Oh.
stop wrong.
I remember
No, you're going ahead. I'm talking about Ibn Ezra right now. Glory and for splendor.
It's saying
themselves.
the
Yeah,
Kohanim.
themselves.
Yeah.
It's for the glory and the splendor of the Kohen Gadol. Now we come to Sforno, who has a different opinion.
For glory, to honor the Almighty, may he be blessed, because they are garments of holiness for his service.
Yeah, so this is...
But he's saying the opposite, that it's Hashem.
Yeah, although not totally, because as he goes on...
For splendor, the Kohen should inspire awe among all those around him, for they are his disciples whose names are engraved on his heart and his shoulders.
Yeah, so he's kind of taking it both ways. It's lechavod ulatifaret. The glory is for God, the splendor is for the Kohen, because it creates a certain impression, and we'll get that more in the next commentary. Rabbeinu Bechayai, go ahead.
For glory and for splendor, according to the Peshat, the Kohen Gadol will be honored and glorified through them. Since the Kohen Gadol is considered like an angel of Hashem, Tshuva,
Adonai Tzvaot.
in the eyes of individuals in the matter of the Avodah, now commands...
Avodah is the sacrificial service, or the whole cultic service in the Mikdash.
Now commands that he be dressed in royal garments, and that he be an honored and glorified king to the masses. Then he will be complete in everything. For these garments are royal garments, the tunic. For maiden princesses were customarily dressed in tunics.
Yeah, that's from the story of Amnon and Tamar, and talking about what Tamar was wearing.
Braided coat. This is the ornamental tunic mentioned in regard to Yosef, and he made for him an ornamental tunic.
V'asalok tonet pasim. Now, what's kind of interesting is that the first part, as you can see in the footnote here too, the first part of the verse, the new JPS notes that the meaning of the Hebrew is uncertain and suggests an emendation of mi'ilim to me'olam. That was H.L. Ginsburg's thing to do emendations from of old. However, the beginning of the verse states that Tamar is wearing a ketonet pasim, an ornamented tunic, the same garment that Yaakov gives to Yosef. So it's interesting how he distinguishes between the mi'ilim and the ketonet pasim, even though the same verse kind of puts them together. Whatever, he's just trying to bring in verses demonstrating that these garments are royal garments. Go on.
Wound turban. It is the custom that rulers and kings in Arab lands enwrap the head and the neck.
Yeah, so not, we know that. And also, by the way, that, and Ibn Ezra goes into a lot of detail on this because he certainly lived within the Arab lands. And many people have the custom when they cover themselves with the talit, when they put it on, this is my custom, is it's not only covering the head, but also moving the tzitzit all to one side. So it's called atifat yishmaelim, the Ishmaelite wrapping. So, but for them, the Kohen Gadol is got to be royal. There's still an element of all of this, these amazing garments, these beautiful, they are supposed to create a feeling in the people who are watching, who are seeing this. And those of us who grew up in the 60s and 70s, especially in camp culture and youth group culture, we kind of laughed at all the pageantry that goes on in synagogues, the formality of the synagogues, etc. We can't forget that in the Mishkan, and then later on in the Beit HaMikdash, there was a great deal of pageantry. I mean, this was quite remarkable. I still love the section in the Yom Kippur liturgy when it talks about the Kohen Gadol coming out and pronouncing God's name and everybody prostrating themselves. That's dramatic, and it happens 3 times. So, but that's okay. That's me. And then it's Rabbeinu Bachya, so he's got to add.
According to the Kabbalah, for glory and for splendor is to say, you are to make garments of holiness for Aaron your brother, so that he utilizes them for glory and splendor. That is to say, for the glory of God who dwells in their midst, and for the glory to Israel.
So here too, he's kind of, they're taking one term as particularly referring to God, and not surprisingly, kavod, and tiferet, for either the Kohanim or for the people of Israel. So there's a little bit of
it could also be explained, Rabbi Papi, as the glory of Israel is the very fact that God dwells among them. In other words, that's the visible symbol of the fact that God dwells among you is you're getting dressed for the occasion.
Yep, absolutely. The old line, "The clothes make the man." We might put it in a more egalitarian form today, but it's true. Hence still the power of talit and tefillin, not only because they're a mitzvah, but there's something powerful about wearing them. They themselves become objects of contemplation and meditation. The people that cover themselves with the talit, that touch and kiss the tefillin when they wear them, or that kiss the tzitzit, the clothes are very powerful, and they serve a function. And part of it, and by the way, the idea of the shel rosh, that is Tiferet Yisrael. That's seen as Oter Yisrael b'tifara in the early brachot, in the Berchot HaShachar. That's one of the places where people traditionally touch and kiss the Tfilah shel rosh. That's like our crown. So, and for the Kabbalists, they go into all these Kabbalistic meanings of what is the kavod and what is the tiferet, and they connect it with the Sephiriotic system, but that we're not going to pay attention to. This one, we're going to move now on to another interesting thing that we highlighted before. Who would like to continue to read? This is also to look at the text that we're going to look at the commentaries to.
I'll read.
Okay, thanks, Maddie.
You are to place the 2 stones on the shoulder pieces of the ephod as stones of reminder for the children of Israel. And Aharon is to bear their names before the presence of Hashem on his two shoulders for remembrance.
Okay, so just reactions to this before we take a look at the commentaries.
I don't think it means remembrance. I think zikaron means to call attention to his presence. In other words, the whole point is, there are ways to get Hashem's attention just by, let's say, tefillah, verbal, but there are more powerful ways of getting attention. The shofar is considered a more powerful way of getting attention than just words are. A visual is more powerful way of getting attention than just words are. Zikaron here basically means to make Hashem notice.
Yeah, well, it's, kind of like the word pakad, which has multiple meanings in the biblical text. It could be
Except
remembering.
Zafar is always positive and pakad is predominantly negative. So
Correct.
be careful with that, Rabbi Pat.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that there is a wide semantic range. And it's not, one translation is remembrance, but what brings remembrance? A call to attention. So, I think it's correct to point out that remembrance, the English does not capture the necessarily in any full sense the semantic range of what's being described here. Still pretty powerful. The shoulders remain in fashion a very important spot for noticing, on one hand, football players, hockey players, have these shoulder pads for protection, but, it creates a certain impression. Even in women's fashions, there were times when you had big shoulders and times that you didn't. In science fiction, they try and create fashions. They do a lot with the shoulders, and it could be a bared shoulder as well. And of course, that was a sign of mourning in the ancient world. And, we tear the garment at Kriya before a funeral. So the shoulders are pretty prominent. And we think also as well of decorations for military or police. They're on the shoulders. So the shoulders are very important in the idea that V'nasa Aharon. Okay. So
Interestingly, some of the translations replace the word remembrance with reminder, which I think is much, much better.
Ulazikaron beinenecha.
Well, in this particular verse, I think reminder works a lot better than remembrance.
Yeah, but I think that in
lots
general,
of other places we can work with that word zikaron, but in this case, it's clear that what's being attended to. After all, what's he putting there? Not his own decorations. It's not like a brigadier general puts a star. He's putting there what he represents, who he's a shliach tzibur for.
And let's take a look at how the commentaries read it. First of all, go ahead with Rashi's commentary.
For remembrance, so that the Blessed Holy One will see the names of the tribes written before him, and he will remember their righteousness.
Yay.
Yeah, I mean, there's, I think Rashi understands it. And now moving on to Seforno.
On his two shoulders for remembrance, to attract, am I in the right spot? Yeah. To attract mercy for Israel through their merit, the merit of wearing the shoulder pads. Safaria.
Yeah, well, that's what they say in their translation. We will say there could be other meanings. If you want to say bizchutam, on their merit, what merit? Is it the merit of the ktefot? Or is it the merit of Israel? Or we'll see other interpretations. But here we also get a sense of the power of these ritual garments, if you will. So this is from Kohelet Rabbah. This is just one little section of Kohelet of a longer drasha, but it's kind of interesting.
However, his service is not service, and he has liability unless the names of the tribes are engraved on his two shoulders, as it is written. And Aharon is to bear their names before the presence of Hashem on his two shoulders for remembrance, 6 of their names on one stone, and the names of the 6 that remain on the other stone.
Okay, so one opinion is that if he doesn't have the names of the tribes, then his service, his avodah, does not count. This is part of the avodah. He's got to be wearing this reminder of Israel, remembering the people whom he is serving and calling God's attention to these people. So that if you don't have them, it's not good. But a couple guys go even further.
Is this Beve?
Yeah.
Rav Beve said, had they been missing one letter, they would not have served their purpose. Rabbi Hoshaya taught even one dot.
Whoa.
Well, it's the same thing on a scroll in a mezuzah.
Well, right.
If something was wrong, it would be unkosher.
But here they have, the whole service of all the things that the Kohen Gadol is doing. If he's not wearing the right garment, and if there's a mistake in the garment, it's not good. Very powerful. Yehudi?
It's very interesting if you think about it. In the time of Rav Oshia, dots, as we understand them, did not exist.
Right.
So is what he means here a dot the way we understand it? Or does he mean a tag, which is the outgrowth of a letter, the way you see it as it's written in a Sefer Torah?
I didn't look into detail on this, but I would not be surprised if that's what he meant, because again, like you said, nikudot as vowel points.
Remember, word nikudah is actually in the Tanakh. Torah,
right.
Dahav Na'aselach in nikudot hakesef. So it does not mean that's the way it means today. No. What I think is being said here is, if you're going to represent the people in the divine service, the service of the divine, then it's got to be absolutely clear without any doubt that who you're representing. This isn't the same thing as you've got a strap upside down. Mm-hmm. What this means is, you are not representing them unless basically their names are accurately inscribed on. Look at the emphasis on this. Okay, this is nothing short of incredible. Is Kohelet? Where did you, if you don't mind me asking you, the Kohelet Rabbah source you got from Sefaria?
Yeah, Sefaria. Mm-hmm.
Okay, fine. I'll check it out.
Yeah, and somebody else brought it up in one of the, I think in one of the Torah from JTS commentaries. I don't remember whom or where. But it's, kind of
was an extremely what you might call thinking midrash. So they make a statement like that. They put a lot of thought into it, and that's okay. We'll work it over.
Yeah, but it is remarkable, and it's again thinking of what's going on religiously. It's not just making nice clothes. I mean, on one hand, it is. You want them to be awe-inspiring. You want them to be glorifying, whether you're thinking about it in terms of the Kohen Gadol, whether you're thinking about it in terms of serving God. You want everything to be beautiful. But it's really whole part of the whole ritual, whole part of the entire religious experience. It's the place of the Mishkan, and it's even how you dress in the Mishkan. That's part of the religious experience, or at least for the Kohen Gadol, quite remarkable. Okay, let's go on with Haktav HaKabbalah, 19th century.
As stones of reminder, the stones will continually keep in Aharon's mind the children of Israel, This will help him to reach the prophetic state at any time he needs.
Okay, so first thing, here they say as a reminder, which, but here it's a reminder for whom in particular?
Remember the children of Israel?
Well, yeah, but who is going to be reminded?
Hashem.
Aharon.
Aharon, yeah. Yazkiru et Aharon b'machshavto. The stones will continually keep in Aaron's mind the children of Israel. He's got to remember who he's representing. And, I think there is this constant back and forth or ambiguity. Is this to God? Is this to Aharon? Doesn't mean it can't be to both. But I think that reflects that the ritual is not just for God, but it's also for human beings. They're two. But then this is the last part that kind of blew me away a little bit. This will help him to reach the prophetic state at any time he needs. How are they understanding Aharon here?
And he's a prophet.
To some extent. And of course, we have in the Psalms, we have Moshe, Aharon, and Shmuel. They're all put there as Kohanim. Friday night Psalms. But, here, again, pointing that it's not just a service, it's not just a ritual, but it's a religious experience that something can happen here. And I think that sometimes gets lost. People read through all these details, why do we need so much detail about the Mishkan and, the materials and stuff, but the physical space, what we're wearing, all that can contribute to the whole feeling and can create a unique experience. And I think that's true. I mean, those of us who've been to summer camp or youth groups and everybody is wearing white or everybody's clean and comes together in the camp, there's something remarkable. Or when a team gets its new uniforms, how exciting that can be. Or when you're a performer and you're suddenly wearing the costume. You can rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse, but when you're wearing the costume, whoa, and it's it feels differently. And many actors have talked about how they have gotten into character only once they put on the costume. And I'm not trying to say that these things are costume. I'm just trying to say that that clothes can make a person. The clothes can have a tremendous impact on a person. And we know, in small ways, when we're wearing clothes that are comfortable and clothes that we particularly like or particularly flattering, these are things that are important to us. But this is, of course, on another level. Okay, let's go on with Tzvi Mecklenburg with Taktav Kabbalah.
On his two shoulders for remembrance. Rashi's explanation, so that the Blessed Holy One will see the names of the tribes written before him, and he will remember their righteousness. Rabbi Obadiah Sforno wrote, for remembrance, to attract mercy for Israel through their merit.
Which we saw. Go ahead.
Further on, so Aharon is to bear the names of the children of Israel on the breastpiece of judgment over his heart, whenever he comes into the holy shrine for a reminder before the presence of Hashem regularly.
Yeah, that's the verse.
Rabbi Obadiah Sforno wrote, so that God will remember the merits of the Avot.
The patriarchs.
What?
The patriarchs, Avot, fathers.
Right. And to treat their descendants favorably on their merits.
So here, it's not the merits of the Israelites themselves, and it's not necessarily the wearing of these shoulder pieces, but, when we think of zchut, we often think of zchut avot, the merits of our ancestors.
He doesn't say avot, he says shrateh. And that's exactly what the shot is. The avot are remarkable by their actions. They're not mentioned at all.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to point that out. That's why I put it in brackets, because that's how they're understanding it in Sfaria. And I'm thinking, wait a minute here. You're right. Sheyizkor Hashem zchutam, that God remembered their merit. Vayivkod et b'neihem lishalom b'zchutam, because it says vayivkod et b'neihem.
Yeah, but
And
it's switch about him. And
yeah,
the way I have it on a computer, it says Perish Rashi Sheyev Aroyak Kadosh Baruch Hu Hashivatim
Shvatim Ktuvim Lefanav. Right. But I think that he's saying that, that having their names is a reminder of the Avot. And I still think it's a little bit more ambiguous in
And there's only one
in
of
Sforno.
but
In Sforno. Yeah. And finally, and I'm sorry if I didn't translate the beginning, the Hamembet Katav Sham. Membet. Rabbi Zucker, Yehudi, could you help me here?
you got me. I'll think about it though.
Yeah, I think I was translating it quickly and then I forgot to look it up. I'm sorry. Okay.
The English doesn't tell you?
No. Well, no, I translated it because I don't think they.
Oh, that's your English. Okay, I didn't understand what was
Yeah.
going on.
So anyway,
Well, whoever it is.
Yeah, and wrote there. Sorry, go ahead.
And wrote there over his heart before the presence of Hashem to pray for them in his service. This is correct in the manner of the Pshat, to distance things that remind the one, before whose glorious throne there is no forgetting. May he be blessed, and to place them upon the human being who is very likely to forget. Such a person needs things that will continually remind him.
So for him, the reminder is for whom?
Children of Israel.
Right. Haran, the children of Israel, that, he's trying to distance, as he specifically says. It's not, God forbid, we can't imagine that God would forget. God remembers, but it's really for us. So as, may say more about Mecklenburg's theology than what the text itself means. But again, that there are different ways to understand this. What is for God, what is for human beings. I just want to finish off with another great little piece, because we saw that Vasitat Sitz Zahav Tahor, you shall make a plate of pure gold, Ufitachta Allah Pituchei Chotam, and you will engrave on it. He translates signet engravings, Kodesh Ladonai, that headband, V'samta Oto Ptil Techelet, and you will place on it a thread of blue. Vaya al hamitznafet, and will be on the turban. El mul pnei hamitznafet yihiyeh, from before the turban. It's got to be in the front, the forefront here. V'haya al metzach Aharon, it'll be on Aharon's brow, but forehead. V'nasa Aharon et avon. What is that? Et avon HaKadashim, it'll bear the iniquity of the holy offerings. Asher yakdishu b'nei Yisrael lechol matanot kodshehem, that the children of Israel offer as holy all their gifts of holiness. In other words, all the sacrifices and offerings. Tamid liratzon lem lifnei Adonai, continually or regularly for receiving favor before them. So here too, the tzitz as well is kind of part of the ritual. And let's take a look at Rashi here. Would somebody else like to read?
Sure, I'll continue. This was a kind of golden plate, 2 fingers in breadth, going around the forehead from ear to ear.
Yeah, so it's like a headband. This is a good comment. Go on. So Aharon.
Okay. So Aharon is to bear, is an expression of forgiveness.
Yeah, the word nasa, nun samach aleph.
Is an expression of forgiveness, but nevertheless, it does not move from, for example, it does not lose its ordinary meaning. Aaron bears the burden of iniquity, so that it follows that the iniquity is lifted off the holy things.
Yeah, it's as if he takes onto himself all the avanot to bear. It's, he carries it.
Carries it away.
Carries it away. So nasa, has a number of meanings again. And, it's very clear because a number of places says if a nasa Aharon, and Aharon will bear. So he's really going to carry it away. That's part of the ritual. And go on.
Sin can be a stain, and for that you use kapara. But sin can also be a load, and for that you say avon.
Right.
It is to be on his forehead regularly. It is not possible to say that it should be on his forehead continually, because it was on him only at the time of the avodah. But the word regularly is to be connected with the words that follow. Regularly to make atonement for them, even if it is not upon his forehead, even if the Kohen Gadol was not officiating at the moment. But according to the opinion of he who says that only while it was on his forehead did it atone and effect pardon, and that if it was not on his forehead, it did not effect pardon, we may derive from it is to be on his forehead regularly, that teaches he must touch it while it is on his forehead, so that he should not divert his attention from it.
Yeah, so couple explanations.
This is really impossible, because if he's lighting the menorah, he can't be having his no, this is simply a homiletic statement.
Yeah.
No, that's all it is. But just the same, it's an important homiletic statement. I don't think correct. By the way, the word marat says, I think should be translated as get yourself into the good graces of. Except with favor. Okay, I think that's a better translation than what we're having here.
Yeah, I don't always correct the translation. Sometimes I just, because I just want to get the selection. But there's a sense that even if he's not involved in the avodah itself, it's as if the fact that Aharon bears the iniquity, it's still effective, even when it's not on him, as it were. Not that it's magical. That's not, the intention here at all. But also, if you want to say that, the idea that it is the important idea, like we touch our tefillin. We remember them. We touch our tefillin on the arm, we touch it on the head. People, I've fetched about the kissing business. Even when people, kiss the mezuzah, it's not a bad thing. To have that reminder. And that's all I don't know why I included the Rashbam there, but just wanted to highlight a couple of the ideas that are coming out, that the garments are really part of the ritual. And, part of a religious experience, whether for the people watching, are especially for the Kohen Gadol, that he's got to be in a proper frame of mind and think about what he's doing and why he's doing it. And also the recognition that ritual is a two-way process. We might be doing it for God, but ritual can also have a tremendous effect on those who participate in it, on human beings. The ritual isn't just for God, it's also for us.
It reminds me of Indiana Jones, the Raiders of the Lost Ark, when the French archaeologist puts the garments on before he opens the.
Exactly. Yeah. They did a lot of good research for Raiders of the Lost Ark. Although what was very funny is that I imagine, when he recites a prayer for opening the ark, he recites the prayer that we recite. Berich Shmei de Mare Alma. However, Spielberg is not looking into history. He's really thinking about his experience in shul, because the Brit Shmei comes from the Zohar,
Right.
which is, like,
A little bit later.
yeah, a few centuries much later than, the Kohen Gadol never recited that.
Right, right, right.
By the way, the mem bet is probably May Be'er.
Oh, okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Rabbi.
All right. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Kol hakavod.
Shalom,
Don't
thank
forget
you.
our study on Sunday, the International Day of Halachic Study. We're
Yeah,
actually
unfortunately, I won't be able to make it.
it will be on Zoom, so it'll be recorded. So if you really want to sit through it, you'll be able to.
Thank you.
I can watch it afterwards
Yeah.
on video?
Yeah.
Terrific. No, because I really wanted to be there, but
Good.
whatever.
Probably enough to, if you go on the JTS website and, see the sessions that are taught by the rabbis
Okay,
who wrote
thank
the
you.
yeshivot. All right, take care, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Bye-bye.
Shabbat
Thank
shalom.
you.
What is the problem here?